Welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And I suppose the headline is the same headline we seem to get used to. Our owners are a joke, and so is our football club when it comes to actually trying to be significant and challenging on the pitch. And some people might not like that harsh truth, but everywhere we turn in yet another transfer window, we are an embarrassment. We've seen Man City buy Alvarez for the summer. They're top of the league. They're competing for the Champions League. They're having a good season. We're now seeing Liverpool, another club, miles ahead of us. Our biggest rival in history, size of fan base, ambition of the fans, certainly, miles ahead of us. They're buying a player in Luis Diaz from Porto as a replacement long-term competitor for two of the best players in the world in Salah and Mane. Whereas United idly sit on their arse acting like Billy Big Bollocks over people leaving when we've got a massive hole in our midfield. You know what? I feel like going round with a big pint of coffee into the United boardroom and saying, sniff that and wake up, because we don't have a midfield. We're fighting for fourth. We are actually having a crap season, and you're sat there thinking everything's fine. Let's show how powerful. Like bloody bullies. We're acting like stupid schoolground bullies who, haven't got any mates, aren't very good at anything, but we've got these people that we can bully and say, you're not leaving for Newcastle, you're not leaving for Palace, and we probably will let them go in the end. But it's like a big dog playing with a spider. It's much bigger than them, and it's like, you're not going anywhere. While all the other dogs are playing on the beach with a stick or something like that. I'm just there is updates to give you, but every update this morning is about something that's not going to bring us any real improvement. We're not going to bring a midfielder in. Effectively, Simon Stone this morning is saying it's expected that Manchester United will let Donny van de Beek go by Monday. Oh, what a surprise. What a surprise that the Donny van de Beek deal that could have been done on Tuesday is going to be done 6 days later on transfer deadline. And I wonder if Jesse Lingard will be done on transfer deadline as well. And I wonder why we're holding those deals out till Monday. I wonder what it is that United are trying to avoid on Monday by dragging out Van der Beek and Lingard's loan deals. I wonder what it is. I wonder why they want Lingard and Donny van der Beek leaving to be the big story on Monday. Because what they don't want to do is be efficient with these loan deals and leave themselves with 3 or 4 days before the end of the transfer window where loads of our rivals are doing business and everyone's going, why aren't you? Why aren't you? And I'll tell you why we aren't doing any business. Because we are pure and simply incompetent. That is what we are as a football club. We can all argue amongst ourselves. We can all argue who's a proper Manchester United fan. We can all argue who's the toppest red of the Reds. But the reality is, we should all be united on the fact that the apathy in this fan base is pathetic. And I put myself included in this. It's absolutely pathetic what this football club has become and is allowed to become because of these owners and bullshit that they feed out all the time, that we've swallowed so much of it that we actually like the taste of it. I actually feel that as a fan base we like the taste of bullshit that comes out of that football club. Because what have they done this transfer window? Let's just have a look at some of the stories, shall we? So Luis Diaz is actually a player that United were linked to. Manchester Evening News this morning, United are astounded that their name has been linked to Luis Diaz. We've never shown any interest in them. Oh, I mean, why bother putting that out? Why bother putting that out? Like it's a good thing. Oh yeah, he can go to Liverpool because we were never looking for him anyway. It's like taking pride in the fact that you're not ambitious. We were never even in for him. Leak that out. Get in contact with the Manchester Evening News and the Athletic. We were never in for Luis Diaz. Yeah, sit down, Liverpool, sit down. Anybody linking us to that? We were never interested in that. Of course we weren't. The only thing we're interested in paying is dividends this month. You've also got Fabrizio Romano talking about Zakaria. Now, let me just remind you about Zakaria, because we had Fabrizio Romano on the show at the start of the transfer window, and he said, keep an eye on Zakaria maybe towards the end of the window. It's a player that Rangnick likes. We've spoken to him in December. He's a midfielder. He would solve a problem. Keep an eye on that deal. Do you want to know where that deal is now? You want to know where that deal is now? Because what I do read some people doing is, we were never in for Zakaria anyway. We were never in for Zakaria. He's shit, Mark. When have you watched Zakaria? I mean, just check some of my replies, because these festering turds do exist on Twitter, as we know. Whenever you mention a player, bet you never seen him. Bet you've only used him on your career mode. Bet you've never watched him. Bet you know nothing about him. Well, I've only been talking about him for about 2.5 years. I've actually done watch-alongs with games he's played in, but don't let that hold you back from your bullshit. I actually think some of these Twitter accounts may well be run by people to actually stir the pot to make Man United look good. I mean, I have got no evidence of that, but sometimes I think the replies are just so bloody ridiculous. But let me just give you the update on Zakaria this morning. It's coming from Fabrizio Romano. Highly unlikely that he's coming to the Premier League. And his agent is speaking to Juventus in the next few days, who are eager to get hold of him. So let me just run that one by you. So Juventus, who've won way more titles than we have in the last... In fact, if they gave us one of their titles, they'd still have 5 times more titles we've had in the last 10 years. So Juventus, a much more successful club than us in the last 10 years in relation to trophies and Champions League progression. Juventus want to buy Zakaria, but apparently he's no good. Apparently he's a load of shit. Apparently... Our scouts, director of football and board were right to say to Rangnick, we don't think he's suitable for Manchester United. Oh my God. Oh my God. Remember, this did come out a couple of weeks ago. United's board or scouts have run the rule over Zakaria and they don't think he's good enough. These are the scouts who bought Fred. These are the director of football who think it's all right to play McTominay and Fred in our midfield. They don't think Zakaria is good enough. But Juventus do. I tell you what, I wonder who I'm going to trust. The bloody jokers at Manchester United who've consistently made bad decision after bad decision over the last decade, or Juventus who've actually recruited rather well. I mean, they've just bought that Vlahovic as well. So, Zakaria must be a load of shit. I mean, amazing, absolutely amazing. I don't know why I'm moaning, actually. If United don't want to trust Rangnick on Zakaria and Juventus do want to go for him, what am I worried about? What am I even moaning about? We've got the best scouts in the world. We've got the best director of football. We've got the best board. What are we worried about? We're fine. Don't worry about Zakaria. Stick with what we've got. Absolutely fine. They've earned that respect and trust. Let's back these scouts. Let's back this director of football. Let's back this board because God, they've done a cracking job, haven't they, over the last few years? I mean, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable that there is a midfielder that can come in, play as a holding midfield, release people like McTominay and Fred into their proper position as number 8s, and probably get the best out of Pogba in the next 3 months, because Pogba's gone in the summer. Why would you not bring a holding midfielder in now, when for the last 6 years we've seen Paul Pogba struggle because he's not had a holding midfielder next to him? The only time Pogba's played well for United is when he's had Matic in the team. Prime Matic. Not this ageing one who belongs in bloody Vicar of Dibley. The Matic of a couple of years ago who was actually just coming towards the end of his prime. Why, when you want to keep Pogba, or are you going to get Pogba for 3 months, would you not bring in a midfielder who plays holding midfield? Why would you not do it? And Zakaria may not work. Kamara may not work. But for the price it's going to cost you and their availability, both of them going to cost you about 10 million max in wages and everything. Why would you not do that? I'll tell you why not. Because dividends and incompetence reigns through that football club like a rainstorm. And that's what it comes down to. So, look, we're going to talk about Lingard in a minute. That's not on Rangnick as well. This is another board thing. And this is why this morning I'm just utterly fed up again. It comes in waves with me. It's like, I know they're rubbish. I know they're incompetent. And I know that I could have this conversation with any board member and say, you've got no leg to stand on until you show you're good at your job. You shouldn't have any sympathy. You can spin as many things as you like. You can try and shut up as many people as you like. But the reality is, look in the mirror. We've got 10 years of evidence that you are useless. Do you think I take satisfaction? Do you think any United fan takes any satisfaction in basically saying we're run badly? But we are run badly. It's factual. It's not speculation. We are run badly. And it's not going to stop, is it? I cannot believe they have sat there through this transfer window and not given the manager what he wanted when he first came in. Read the quotes. Read the quotes. Manchester Evening News is one that I saw yesterday, but there was loads. The Athletic said it. Romano said it. This board were willing to back willing to back Rangnick in the January transfer window with a midfielder, which was his highest priority. Go back to mid-December, late December, early January. They were all saying that. And here we are at the end of the month, nothing. Nothing done. Nothing in a position that is absolutely essential. Now, that board will be sat there going, "I bloody love it. I bloody love it." They'll be like this. I tell you what, have you seen that Goldbridge? Have you seen that? Have you seen what they're saying in the papers? I tell you what. I'll bloody love it. I'll love it. Hold on a minute. I'm just checking the bank account. Yeah, dividends have gone through. I'll bloody love it if we finish in 4th, because then they'll all have to sit down. Well, the reality is, you know what? They might finish in the top 4, Manchester United, because at the end of the day, we're up against Arsenal and Spurs, who are arguably worse than us. So we might finish in the top 4. But if we're going to finish in the top 4, it's not nailed on. It's not because we've got everything we need. It's because we get by with what we've got. And this is where I'm going with this. We get by with what we've got. You know, we're like the car that, can we make it? It's 10 mile to the finish line. We've only got 8 miles of petrol. Can we make it? Can we make it? Let's fingers crossed. Yeah, we made it. There was never in doubt. Well, it bloody was. You only had 8 miles left and you've coasted it. You know, you look at what Man City and Liverpool are doing. I'm very surprised that Man City and Liverpool have done anything in the transfer window. They've got very stable squads. You know, they're the 2 best teams in the league. They can compete for the league this year and they can compete for the Champions League this year. What have they both done? They've added in players for their long term. That's terrifying. Alvarez is one for next year and the year after. And Luis Diaz is a player that's really not needed, but just gives them more strength in attack. What are United doing? We've got no midfield. We've not backups. We haven't even got a CDM. Mark, you should apply for a job at United's board. We trust you. Says, they wouldn't listen to me or anybody else who's got any bloody sense. They're only interested in bloody gimmicks. You know, they're just interested in spin. They're not interested in sorting anything out. You know, one of the prerequisites of being on the Man United board is that you know what goes on in here stays in here, and ultimately we're just here to make money. But we must pretend about DNA in the United way. There's no, you know, I was thinking about this just before I went live. These people on our board, and I don't need to name the names. One of them's leaving next week, but 2 or 3 of them are still going to be there. 20 years ago, I bet they never even knew anything about United. Weren't they all at university together, learning how to be a banker? They failed at that. They did do well. I'm not going to go down that road, but the reality is, you know, we've got people making decisions who look at us as fans and go, "Oh, look at those hysterical people. They don't know what they're on about. We know best." And you know, realistically, the best thing I could, the best explanation I could give about this is that, you know, whatever job you do, whatever business you work for, and if you're good at it, and I hope you are, imagine that business being taken over by your bank manager. And then them telling you everything about your business and how it's going to be run and how, you know, because that's basically what happened to United. Manchester United, a football club, was taken over by bank managers. And then they think they know better than you. Like, they don't know better than you. They absolutely don't. I would absolutely love, and I'll use Ed Woodward as an example. I would absolutely love, not just me, any of you, to sit down with a camera and Ed Woodward and talk to him about football. Not what he's not his spending, not what he's done at Man United. Just have a chat with him about football. Oh, do you remember this game? What did you think about the tactics in that game? Oh, what did you think about that game in the World Cup? I'd bloody love it. And he would never put himself in that position because he would get exposed. He'd get exposed big time. My 12-year-old daughter would expose him in relation to football knowledge. I guarantee it. He knows absolutely nothing. And if you do know something, Ed, prove it. Because I've never met you. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But I know loads of people who do work with you, and that is coming firsthand, that you know next to nothing about football compared to what people do. I mean, I'm sure you know what the offside rule is, and I'm sure you know we won last week. But in relation to football knowledge, that board is a joke, an absolute joke, and they're cashing checks in relation to this football club. And, you know, ultimately, you know, I have to bring the Lingard scenario into this because it just shows you the involvement of the Glazers. Now, this is coming from The Athletic and it's coming from Laurie Whitwell, so listen to this because it's probably the most relevant bit you'll ever get. Now, I'm not a big fan of Laurie Whitwell and Athletic, not because I don't like them. I just think that they become mouthpieces for the club, and I don't think that's journalistic. I don't think they talk about tactics enough because I think tactics are too critical and they don't want to be critical about the club. But to be fair, I quite liked this piece because it didn't feel like it was coming from the club, or if it was coming from the club, it felt like they were, you know, there was a bit of disharmony. And there is disharmony. There is disharmony, not between Ranić and the players. A lot of players at United can't stand the Glazers. They don't like the way the club is run. Significant players at that football club do not like the Glazers. And certainly you could probably throw Jesse Lingard into this if you listen to this story from The Athletic. And what they're basically saying is that Manchester United won't have got no real desire to work on this Lingard deal because Lingard's out of contract in the summer. At the start of January, he'd said he was going to stay and wait his contract out, and now he wants to go because he's going to earn good money at Newcastle. And there's a bit of bitterness there from United as to why they should do a deal. A deal is still expected to be done. Ranić had said the deal can be done, but it's been held up by people above Ranić. So we're back into the board area, aren't we? We've got Ranić who wants a holding midfielder and not been given it. We've got Ranić who's happy for Lingard to go and it's not happened because both things are being prevented by the board. Your director of football, your CEO. Why are they putting a hold on it? Because they're bitter and incompetent and they think they've got a bit of power. And that is why, again, another deal is getting pushed back until Monday. And ultimately, the way things stand at the moment, the only business we're going to do on transfer deadline days is letting 2 players go that we knew should have gone on Tuesday. They just drag it out on purpose. And you know, all the board will do, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was happening, all the board will do is all we've got to do is get to 11 o'clock on Monday, and then we've shut them down. They can moan all they like. They can moan. We've done it before, lads. We've done it before, haven't we? We've done it. Remember that one when we didn't get Sancho and everyone's going mad and then the window closed and what can they do? What can they do? We've just got to get till 11 o'clock. How do we do it? How do we get till 11 o'clock on Monday? Well, let's drag the Donny van der Beek loan out a bit. That will do because Donny leaves on Monday. It'll be big news and that will just play with people's heads a bit and they will forget about signings. And let's do it with Lingard as well. Let's do it with Lingard and get a bit of money out of it and then it makes us look really good. If we get 5 million or 6 million for Lingard, we can say what a great deal it is. But what they don't realise is they're working on deals to remove people, right? But these players want to leave. Lingard wants to leave. If Lingard doesn't want to leave, United aren't working on a deal. So, you know what I mean? Like, United are going to take credit for this. They've got no role in it. If Lingard says, I'm not going anywhere, he's not going anywhere because he's out of contract in the summer. So, United haven't done anything. The only thing they're negotiating is what their fee is because Lingard wants to go. If Lingard doesn't want to go, they get no fee. Donny wants to go. Martial wants to go. Like, these players are going because they want to go, not because United are being efficient in clearing a bloated squad. Have you seen Neville and Carragher on that transfer window show? Neville literally said, I would always take a player who has passion over talent. Well, that's because that's what Gary Neville's career is based upon, isn't it? He is. You know, I always respect Gary Neville. I've read lots of books on people who played with him. I've spoken to people who've played with him. And Gary Neville wasn't talent. He was pure hard work. And what I mean by he was talented, but I'd argue that there were more talented players than Gary Neville who never made it. But his work rate was unbelievable. So I'm not surprised that he would say work rate over talent because he's a prime example of that. And Ravel Morrison would be a prime example of talent being wasted by a lack of work rate. But where I would disagree is, I'd take work rate over talent. Well, maybe that's why you failed at Valencia then, mate, because you've got to have talent. I think people over-egg the pudding on work rate. Don't buy a player if they're lazy, full stop. But don't buy a player because they work hard. They've got to have talent. The key is to buy the players that are talented and work hard. You have to have talent. You've got to have talent. At this level of football, you've got to have talent. What you don't want to buy is buy talent who's got no work rate. But you can't just buy work rate with no talent because you end up with what we've got at United. And I disagree, Christian. I don't think the two things go hand in hand because I don't think work rate on its own is good enough. I think talent has to exist, but talent has to have work rate. But you can't have just work rate. Your talent always has to be there. Okay, what's gone wrong there then? I've just lost my bloody live chat, twats. Get my bloody live chat back on. There we go. Can't operate without my live chat. Bloody hell. They don't want to sell because then they don't have the excuse not to buy. Mourinho defensive midfield, Ollie defensive midfield, Ralph defensive midfield. How many years more, says Jacob Hawks. And if United want, they can sign a midfielder before the deadline day, but they will give an excuse of lack of time. They literally signed Ronaldo in 4 hours, says Anshima. Mate, it's cheap. There's players available and the manager wants them. that's the only thing that matters to me in relation to this transfer scenario. I almost don't want to go down to the depths of frustration, because I just feel like banging my head up against the wall, and I'm sure many of you agree. We need a midfielder. There's plenty available. They're cheap, and the manager wants one. And it will revolutionise our midfield in the next few months, especially Paul Pogba. There's absolutely no reason for us not to buy a holding midfielder, apart from the board. And that absolutely tears me up, because I'm like, sometimes you're like, do we need this? Do we need that? But this is 100% we need it, and can get it, and the manager wants it, and the board won't do it. And it just it just really, forget this season, forget next season, forget the last 10 seasons for a moment. This is why we fail. Scenarios like this that we are in this morning are why we fail. You can have the manager, you can have the makings of a good squad, you can have the fan base, you can have the history, you can have the big club, you can have everything. We've got everything we need to succeed, apart from the people who are running us, and that just makes me want to cry. It really does. We've got everything. We've got an amazing fan base. We've got an amazing football club. We've got some amazing players, but we have owners that will sit there and say, no, we're not going to give you a holding midfielder in January, even though there's a few available at reasonable prices, and that we know the manager wants one, and we know the club wants one, and we know that it would set us up for the last few months of the season with a better chance of achieving what we need to achieve. We're not going to do it because we think we're right. And ultimately it will come down to money. It will come down to money. And you know what, as well? They can have this headline and they can swivel on it. If we don't buy a holding midfielder, of which they could buy for less than £11 million, never forget the dividends that went out of this club in January for £11 million. And that, whether it's symbolic, whether it correlates, whether it's coincidence, to me, that's the headline, isn't it? United could have bought a midfielder, but £11 million went on dividends. And that's what we are as a football club. It's symbolic. Very hypothetical, but just imagine if we finish fourth and win the FA Cup. I'm scared our board will think our squad is good enough, says Michael Kim. But this is what they do. They do this consistently. But the board don't get it right. If you roll the dice enough wanting a 6, you will throw a 6 sometimes. And maybe they'll throw a 6, and maybe we will get top 4 and they'll go, yes, we know what we're doing. But what happened literally a couple of months ago? We got smashed at home by Liverpool in one of the most embarrassing games I've ever watched between Manchester United and Liverpool. 5-0 on your own ground. Humiliated. They didn't sack the manager. We know what we're doing. We're going to stand by Ollie. We believe in Ollie. Throw the dice again. It's not a 6. Man City. We believe in Ollie. We know he's the right man. He is the right man. Throw it again. We just lost to Watford 4-1. Yeah, he's got to go, hasn't he? They don't get it right. They don't get it right. Di Maria, Memphis Depay. You can list their mistakes are endless. So they will throw a positive at some point and pretend that they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. They don't want to sell because then they won't have an excuse. We've done that one. Completely agree, Mark, but don't you also think that even if we do buy someone, they won't get played unless they have a brand? United is a collection of brand and sponsors, not a football club, says Andrew O'Brien. I can see a 2-year race for Rice, just like the Sancho saga, says BOM. Real accelerating plans to sign United, linked Tchouameni this summer. United prioritising a new midfield signing this point, but they could miss out, says the Valkyrie. I've fully given up with the club and transfers. We dragged the obvious ones on for years, says RM. And who hid the supply of Villagra from the board, says Bolver. You know what? The depressing thing is, and I don't really want to go down this road this morning because it is Friday. It's Friday. I really do think things are going to get worse. I mean, I can't imagine what's going on in Cristiano Ronaldo's head. Like his career is running out, and he's basically gone down a dead end at Manchester United. He thought it was bad at Juventus when they didn't win the league last year. He's gone down a right dead end at United, and I just don't know what Ronaldo will do. I really don't know what he'll do. Even if we get 4th place, like we're not winning the league next year. I think people with Ronaldo, they think, if we can just get top 4, he'll stay. This is a guy whose career has been defined by Champions Leagues, European Cups, Ballon d'Ors. No, the European Cups, same thing. I meant league domestic titles, Ballon d'Ors. Even if we get 4th place, we're not winning the league next year. We're not winning the Champions League next year. We're nowhere near. So Ronaldo's going to waste another year of his career at a dead-end club like Manchester United. And I hate saying that. I should never say Man United's a dead-end club, because we have got an amazing fan base. We have got an amazing club. But unfortunately, we're all a victim of our owners. And they're just sat there counting the pennies. They're not interested in being successful. And it goes back to what was being said there about Tchouaméni. Well, Real Madrid, I said this before, Real Madrid and Barcelona are in big trouble, but they won't be in big trouble in 5 years' time, because one way or another, they will be obsessed with being successful on the pitch. So I wouldn't be surprised if Real Madrid went and got Pogba, Tchouaméni, Haaland and Mbappe, and suddenly they're one of the best clubs in the world again. Because, all right, it's going to cost them a lot of money, but that's what they want to be. And they know they'll make that money back on success and, attention and brands and everything like that. They just want to be successful. So do PSG. Newcastle are going to be like that. Man City are still like that. Chelsea want to be that. Liverpool really can't compete with those in relation to money, but they still can compete because they're a well-run club with a fantastic manager. All these clubs are going to get stronger. They are. I mean, who's to say Aston Villa won't get stronger over the summer? I'm terrified about where we're heading as a football club. I really am. Because if we can't go into a January transfer window where we know we need a holding midfielder and the manager wants one and they're available for less than £10 million and they go no, what hope have we got? You know what United are planning? Declan Rice in the summer for 80 million. Look at us, everybody. We've got Declan Rice for 80 million pounds. Woo, everybody. Yeah, we're in the Europa League as well. Even if we're in the Champions League. We're just not learning. It's always the same thing. I like Declan Rice, by the way, but nothing against him. But we can't keep spending 80, 90 million pounds on one player. Imagine if we hadn't bought Harry Maguire for 80 million and we'd used that 80 million for a couple of midfielders or a centre back, from abroad who's probably going to be better than him for 40 million or 30 million. Like, it's just weird, really weird the way the club is run. This club needs a rebuild, not just the squad. Pull it down and start again until what happens with Dooms, is chunky. We just need rid of the Glazers. We need rid of the Glazers and then they'll clear the board out. I don't rate Murta. I know a lot of people do. I do not rate him at all. I don't rate Darren Fletcher. I don't rate Murta. I don't rate Arnold, and I definitely don't rate Woodward. And you know why I don't rate them? Not because I won't rate them, not because I don't think that they could be good, but because on the evidence. I'll go on the evidence, and I did a good job on Varane, did a good job on Ronaldo. Obvious signings, yeah, well done. Did a good job on Sancho, yeah, a year late. So come on, tell me what other good jobs they've done. I don't care if we sign Lionel Messi in the summer. We need a holding midfielder. You're not good at your job for going and getting a superstar who will sell your shirts. We needed a holding midfielder 2 years ago. We still need one 2 years later. That's where I judge a director of football. I would rather have competence than superstars. When you've got a problem in your team, you solve it. You don't go buying strikers and wingers when you need a holding midfielder. And I said this. Look, I love Ronaldo. I think it's fantastic he's back. I like Sancho. I think he's got a lot of potential. But you don't go and buy yourself new tyres when you're running out of petrol. You get the petrol, and then you sort your tyres out. And United are just we're like a bling machine, basically. Polish it up, get a new spray of paint. Yeah, look how good we look. But inside, it's just crap. Barcelona right now are broke, but they told Dembele to shove it, bought Ferran Torres, trying for Morata, got Adama, they've standard and prefer right minute. Look, Marcelino, it's not my... welcome to the Members Club, Sion, by the way. It's not my job to know how well Barcelona are being run. But as somebody who is sat looking from distance... Is this not Barcelona who couldn't keep Messi because they were paying too much wages? And yet they've bought Adama Traore, they've bought Ferran Torres. How have they done that 6 months later from losing their greatest ever player? How have they managed to do that? How have they twisted and turned to do that? And I'm sure it's legit. But I'm in awe of it because I'm like, well, this is a club that's on its knees 6 months ago and is still on its knees. But 6 months later, they're buying players to improve themselves. We're not buying players when we're in a position where we can. As many as 8 players can leave in the summer. I don't expect this board to sign even 4 players in the summer. We are doomed, says Anshaman. Please smash a like on the video, by the way. It should be considered as a crime to have a board like ours in any football club. Completely depressing, says Eddie. The problem we're going to have at United is that there's too many clubs now in Europe and in the Premier League that are run by people whose only goal is to be... Barcelona got a loan, says Robert McCormack. Well, we don't even need a loan, do we? What do we do with our money? We send it off to the Glazers. But we're in trouble, in my opinion, because Everton have been run badly, but they're wealthy. Leicester are wealthy. Villa are wealthy. Newcastle are very wealthy. Man City are wealthy. Obviously Chelsea are wealthy, and that's just that's how many clubs have I said there? 6. That's not without Arsenal and Spurs and Liverpool. So, and that's not without other clubs I might have missed in the Premier League. You've got your PSGs. You've obviously got your Bayern Munichs. They're never going to be run badly. Barcelona, Real Madrid are hunger to get back. I just don't see a good future for Man United. I don't, because and let's keep it on the Premier League for a moment. If I can name 6 clubs that have got wealthy owners who are ambitious, well, that's 6 more clubs than us. And then I talk about people like Liverpool, who I don't think are particularly wealthy, but want to be successful on the pitch and are well run and are focused and being good on the pitch. That's 7. When you get into 7, 8 clubs that are better run and wealthier than you're in big trouble. You're in big, big trouble. And we're always going to be in big trouble because our owners, as has been proven over the last 16 years, they don't really want to spend money, and they certainly don't want to spend it well, and they want to keep making money. And that's the principle of Man United, is business over football, and that's going to be a problem when there's so many clubs whose principle is football over business. A lot of clubs want to make money, but they appreciate that by being successful they will make money. Newcastle are going to make more money than they've ever made. They're going to get loads of brands, they're going to get loads of interest, they're going to make money as well as spend money. Man City have done that, Chelsea have done that. United were a club... Where it's gone wrong for us, in very simple terms, is that if you buy Newcastle and they're making £1 million a year, but they never win anything, and you pump a lot of money into them, it's not going to be long before they're making £100 million a year. And I'm just using any figures here. Same with Man City. They weren't really making a lot of money. Now they are. Chelsea, now they were. And their owners don't mind losing a bit of money because they want to be successful anyway. They're putting money into football because they want a football club. It happens in American football as lot. In American football, if you own an American football club, it's prestige. I own the Dallas Cowboys. I own the Cleveland Browns. I own Kansas Chiefs, whatever. And it's a prestige, and that's what it's like in football now. I own Man City. I own Newcastle. I own PSG. I own Chelsea. Unfortunately, the worst thing happened to us. It might have happened to other clubs, I don't know, but the worst thing happened to us. We were, in the early noughties, the breakthrough English club that, I can remember that DVD that came out. I remember getting it for Christmas. I think it was like 2000, The Promised Land. It was the right load of shit. The most commercial, crappy DVD I've ever bought in my life. And it was about United and their success. They called it The Promised Land. I got it for Christmas. I can't even remember. I don't think I've ever watched it. I think I watched it once. It wasn't a season review. It was about, I think we went on tour. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the video was about. But it sort of symbolised what United became after '99. We just became this global football club. We weren't owned by the Glazers, and we had Vodafone. I think was on our shirt. David Beckham, we'd won this team, and that's the worst thing that happened to United, because we became this rock star brand, really, that was breakout in England, especially as a football club, and we were making big waves as a football club, and the Glazers saw that and went, we can make even more, we can make a lot more, and they did, and they grabbed us and they turned us into a brand. Man City and Newcastle have been bought as smaller clubs and will be turned into bigger clubs. We were already a big club that somebody went, I can make money out of, and that's the problem. We can't be bought in the same way that Newcastle and Man City can, because we're not a project. We're not potential. As a brand, we're up there, but we're faltering on the pitch. So to buy us would take ridiculous amounts of money compared to what it would be to buy. I mean, you could buy Coventry City, build a stadium, make them the biggest club in England if you're a billionaire, and it would be cheap to buy them. But you can, to do, it's just a horrible ownership that we've got. Barca signed the biggest football sponsor deal that starts next season. They poached Spotify from Arsenal. Barca are coming back, says Gabriel Noel. And Robert says, I got that, says Robert. Thank you. Some people might not have done. So anyway, look, let's get back to the news. I'm ultimately just very, very disappointed again. And it's not breaking news, is it? It's not breaking news. This is happening all the time. I think we suppress it. But, we're living in the reality that we are not a proper football club. We're run by complete and utter incompetence, and sadly, unless we get a real big miracle now in the last few days, we're not going to get a holding midfielder that's available. So, problem is club needs a reset, but we are too big to do what Arsenal have done this season, says Aaron. Look, you know what as well? I think there's people at Manchester United who are going, well, Spurs and Arsenal haven't bought anybody. I actually think, and I'm going to try and find this out, and I can ask a couple of people, I actually think United are sat there in the boardroom going, well, I'm not really bothered what Liverpool and Man City are doing. I don't care what Juventus are doing. Look at what Arsenal and Spurs are doing. They haven't got Ruben Diaz. They didn't get Adama Traore. They've not improved. Arsenal haven't bought anybody yet. They're the only teams we need to worry about because they're the teams who are fighting for fourth. And look, that's probably the correct strategy. But how embarrassing is that? How embarrassing is that the board probably are looking at it going, we don't need to spend anything because we've got enough to finish above Arsenal and Spurs. And that's what we've become again. I've known this for a long time, and I know you have. The Glazers aren't bothered about winning the title. They're not bothered about second or third. Fourth is fine. All they want is Champions League football. And I guarantee that's probably what they're doing. Well, Arsenal and Spurs haven't done anything. And even if they do, I still think we've got a better squad. And that will surely be the reason why we're not doing anything. Simon Stone has said about Donny van der Beek, it's expected that he's going to leave, and that United are waiting on more interest before Monday. So again, it's looking like Van der Beek and Lingard are going to be the Monday things. I think they're waiting for those on purpose. Very, very quiet on anything else. There's a couple of stories about Rashford to PSG and Pogba to PSG. I mean, if Rashford wants to go to PSG, go to PSG, mate. Like, really, if you want to go. But he ain't going to go. And United aren't going to let him go. So I don't know why these stories come out. Pogba to PSG, well, look, of course, they're going to be one of the clubs that offers Paul Pogba a contract. I'm sure many people are offering him a contract. It's whether he wants to do it or not. But look, that's where we're at this morning. Very disappointed, but it's not a surprise, the disappointment, is it? I'm just... I was saying to somebody the other day, it's such a shame that nothing can be done collectively to sort this out. I'm not talking about riots or things like that. I think what happened last year was really good. It sent a big message. But, the Glazers are business people. The people on our board are business people. You don't move them out of a football club by having a game cancelled. They were worried about that, but what really worried them was when people like TeamViewer were panicking. And, the cynic in me always said TeamViewer were really worried. They were going to be United's new shirt sponsor, and after that game got cancelled and there was a lot of negativity online, TeamViewer were getting bad ratings and all sorts, and they were worried. What did United do? They went and bought a couple of players and people bought the shirts. They brought a nice kit out and people bought the shirts. I've got no problem with people being excited about Varane and Sancho and Ronaldo. I was. I've got no problem with people being excited about the nice new third kit. I wasn't. But they're business people. They don't live on emotion. They live on business. And the only way we will remove them from our football club or get them to behave the way we want them to behave is through business tactics. Hurt them where it hurts in the pocket, or make them see that they can earn more money by spending more money, which you can. That Ronaldo deal will have paid for itself. If I was the Glazers, I'd be looking at that Ronaldo deal and I'd go, why have we not done more business like this then? Why aren't we getting people like this in? But no. Excellence on the pitch comes first. Our club should chase that, and success in everything else will follow, says Nimi. Well, exactly. The Glazers would have actually made more money over the last 10 years if they'd employed competent people. Like Ed Woodward's going next week, isn't he? So we can certainly say this. I think United have spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. That is a lot of money to spend, but I've never understood why the Glazers didn't realise that they were employing incompetence just because it was the mate. Like, imagine that £1 billion spent by a proper director of football. We'd be in a much better position. It's not just the fact that the Glazers the Glazers are bad owners. They've taken loads of money out of the club. The debt's still there. They're bad owners. But there are, it's not just about good and bad. There's also the fact that we've spent £1 billion in the last 10 years. And what have we got to show for it? Most of that billion has been lost. Imagine if only half of that had been spent better. Imagine if you spent a little bit like City, and you were bringing, or a little bit like Liverpool, where you brought Salah in from Roma, or Mane in from Southampton, or De Bruyne in from Wolfsburg, instead of getting Di Maria and losing 15 million on him a year later, or instead of getting Maguire for 80 million or something like that. We've spent badly as well. Thoughts on Diaz to Liverpool? I think it's a fantastic signing for Liverpool. I think Alvarez is a fantastic signing for Man City. I think there's definitely a sense of jealousy there on how these clubs are being run from top to bottom, and how we're being run from top to bottom. There's no dressing room unrest at Liverpool or City. You never hear of anything. You don't really see them doing much social media and stuff, do you? You don't see them struggling on the pitch. It's just a club is dictated to by how it's run from the top. And I will say this, there's a lot of players at United who don't like the Glazers. The club's not cohesive, there's no chemistry, it's all over the shop. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching, and we will be back a little bit later. We've got the 8 o'clock show tonight, and I think we're live again at 2 o'clock, but yeah, disappointing, very disappointing. It's not nice when you see rivals being run well and our club is there acting like they're it because they won't let Lingard go at the moment. Like, fucking, if he doesn't want to go, he doesn't go. You've got no control in this. Thanks for watching anyway. Speak to you all in a bit.